called Homoscurra by Jay Wilburn. Dale Hackett was terrible with names. It didn't help that he cared very little for any other human being. Fortunately, he was. Okay, let me put a comma there. This is editing after all, so I might as well fix things. Fortunately, he was in a position of power within his agency and division. He could point and give orders, and others remembered names and details, let's say, for him. All right. Operational names escaped him too, and that was a concern for Dale because he cared very much for the operations he was over. They reflected on him. They were an extension of him even when he thought they were a stupid waste of money. If not wasting money became important to him, it was time to return to the private sector. Dale couldn't even pronounce the operation that had gone snafu most recently. He'd gone from plane to car to military transport toward a nondescript concrete block of a building with most of its floors way below the surface. He could tell by the name and by the fact that it was in italics that this was an operation named and run by scientists. Terms like evolutionary biology and genetic coding were thrown in every few lines of the action report. As a rule, Dale had no problem with scientists. He believed in climate change. He got every vaccine they told him to. He followed every safety guideline they laid out. I'm going to put out here. They laid out, whether he understood them or not. And he was an early adopter of every new toy that came along. He did not, however, like spending time with them. He always wanted them to get to the point faster. They always whined about not enough money or time or respect, or that they were surprised every time the military that paid for their laboratory time wanted to use their inventions for military shit. Surprised every fucking time, he mumbled. The soldier next to him on the seat snapped to and gave a "Sir." Dale waved him off. He would never know this kid's name because he would never need to. The military shit always involved a small range of uses. They could kill people with it, they could break people's shit with it, or they could stop people from doing either of those things to us. That was it. Every scientist taking cash from the military was serving those three purposes, no matter how much they deluded themselves to justify their work. Scientists... Alright, here we are. Scientists also had trouble letting go. When something didn't work, you scrapped it. All right, let me put an "it" in here. Got a lot of dropped words that'll happen when I'm writing quickly. When it broke, you could fix it or abandon it. Scientists never knew when to let go. And when the shit hit the fan, like it did today in this unpronounceable program of scientific gobbledygook. All right, let me take out a period and leave the comma. There's only so much punctuation you need in a story. You either got it back under control in short order or you burned it all down. Sometimes literally with the dangerous shit. Sometimes literally burned it down. Considering the dangerous shit that Dale was put in charge of. Let me put an "of" down here. Alright. Why? Because I know when to burn shit down. He waved the kid off before he could inquire of Dale again. Dale stepped out of the vehicle before it had come to a full stop. The others piled out to follow on his flanks. He didn't need much guidance from these guys because there was only one door, and a guy in a lab coat stood outside shielding his eyes like it was the first sun he had seen in years. He might burn just from this short exposure. The guy was already talking before Dale got to him. Is it safe to go inside? He cut the scientist off. The guy was literally wearing a lab coat like out of central casting. Why bother? The guy used 12 words to say yes, and Dale shooed the group inside. Get out of the sun before you blister. A couple soldiers laughed lightly, and the scientist laughed a little too hard at his own expense as they made their way down the halls. There were a lot of security doors and codes to deal with. Dale lost count. This was a lot of doors for something that wasn't toxic or nuclear. All right. He filed this detail in the back of his mind. All right. How many floors below us are safe? Well, holy shit, this was going to take a while. No. Dale held up a halting hand and then had to wave everyone into walking again past the last set of security doors. No, I don't need a book report with every question. I don't need a book report, let's say 4. I don't need a book report for every question I ask. I need quick, direct answers, and I'll ask for more detail if I need it. How many floors are safe and uncompromised below us? All right, let's put a question mark there. I don't know. That took Dale back a little. Scientists who worked for the government rarely admitted that as often as it was true. When they did, it usually meant real trouble. How many floors below are compromised for sure? The guy took a couple more steps before answering. At least 3 of 14. Probably more. It's not contained. They reached a room full of small black and white monitors that showed a scanning of empty hallways, labs, and offices. Only 2 were blank and black, which was a pretty good sign. Dale stepped closer to the monitors that showed people and that showed monitors that specifically showed people, and he picked up on the fact that none of them were moving. A couple in lab coats were slumped. More than a few sat or lay in the midst of gray splatter and spreading pools. It wasn't the first time Dale had seen colorless gore from a room like this in a situation like this. What got out? He asked. A few people started talking at once. Dale snapped his fingers until they all shut up. He sighed and said, "Assume I don't have time for bullshit. If you rode with me all the way here with nothing to say, then we're going to listen to the guy we came here to see." So you, all right, I need another comma there. So you, in the lab coat, answered the question with as few words as possible. The scientist took a deep breath and said, "The clowns." There was a protracted silence. It was so heavy that Dale had time to locate a clicking noise from one of the blank monitors. One soldier let out a tiny hiss of air. He was trying not to laugh. Dale wanted to punch him, but he interjected himself back into the conversation to avoid dealing with it. "Okay, buddy, this will be one of those times you'll need to give me a little bit more." "Sure, sorry, sir. That's what we call them. They have a scientific name." "Yeah, skip that. Just tell me what they are. What did we make down here that we lost control of?" "It's a prehistoric man, a subspecies of human that we reconstituted the DNA for and incubated into new living specimens." Lots of science words, but the guy kept it short. Dale checked his tone and spoke with calm respect in order to reward these sorts of concise answers. "Okay, how long ago were these things born? How long have we been studying them?" The scientist gave a date but no year. "What year?" "This year, sir." He turned and stared at the man. "A newborn baby caveman did this? How big are they?" "They range in size, sir. Some are quite small, others—" Dale waved to get the info out of the guy. "Some can stretch as high as 15 feet. They could probably go taller if they got out in the open." "They stretch?" "Yes, sir. They have very elastic bones that we are only beginning to understand. Their teeth are harder and sharper, but still flexible." Dale wiped his face with one hand and moved between the monitors. He spied no movement and saw nothing other than ordinary dead men. After another deep cleansing breath, he asked, "Are they full grown in this amount of time?" If I didn't know when they were made, I would assume they were adults. I'm not sure if they will grow more given more time. I don't remember learning about the Mr. Stretch cavemen in school. No, sir, this is a new species, and we have had no idea it was like this. The nature of its bones didn't leave much of a fossil record. We were lucky to discover them at all. The guy glanced at the monitors and shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Well, maybe lucky is the wrong word, but you understand what I mean. I do. Tell me. Dale stopped and approached one of the monitors on the left side with his mouth still hanging open. He squinted. It was probably a glitch in the feed, but he read it as movement. It passed two other monitors and he shifted his position to try and follow whatever it was. Even as he knew it was a poor choice to dismiss it, the truth that it most likely was a shadow, the truth was that it was most likely a shadow through the electronics. Sir, the scientist sounded like the kid soldier now. Dale sighed and tried to recapture his train of thought. He wouldn't look away from the bank of monitors. Okay, tell me, are these strange abilities something they had in the past, or is it a mutation that occurred as we tried to regrow them in test tubes or whatever? Please don't correct my simplification of your process. Just answer the question. Yes, sir. It has to be characteristics of their species found in their DNA. Nothing we did could have created it in them. Everyone at the agency seemed real excited when this started, despite our warnings, but then it turned into this breach. We can assign blame later. How do we stop them? Dale asked. We burn this place down, the scientist said. Nuke it from space if possible. Dale pulled himself away from, I got an extra space here, from the video feed and read the terror in the man's pale face. In all his years, with all the weird shit they put him in charge of, he had never once had a scientist suggest they burn it down. Now Dale was deeply concerned. He didn't want to be in this building at all. Okay, well, I need him to ask. Is there anyone alive here besides us and them? Dale refused to say clowns. The scientist said, "We've been monitoring from a campus 10 miles away. I came back to meet you here to brief you on the seriousness Dale waved the scientist to silence again. Okay. I get your recommendation. And we may get there, he said with as even a voice as he could muster. What? Let me fix around here, sorry. Once you start changing one thing, you end up having to change a bunch. But what the hell are these things? What do you call... Why? Let's say why. Why do you call them clowns? The guy actually shivered, and Dale shot a glance back at the monitor. Still no movement. The scientist said, they look a little like clowns if clowns were a real species. Aside from stretching and climbing up walls, they are as white as grease paint, eyes red, noses a dark blue, horns red. They have horns, some of them, mostly the males, but not all the males. Dale nodded. Go on. Broad mouths, bright red gums, sharp teeth. I've only seen those types of clowns in movies. Sure, the scientist said, but that fear in us may be related to this species. Dale shook his head. You said yourself, no fossils. Don't recall any cave paintings of stretchy clowns, right? No evidence we found, no sir. So how are we afraid of something we don't remember? The scientist shrugged but tried to answer anyway. Fear of snakes, fear of falling, our responses as infants when wind or water hit our face. That means it'd be plural. Hits our face. All of it is evolutionary instinct instilled in the survivors that became our ancestors. So we're afraid of clowns because these clowns used to roam the open plain with dinosaurs and shit. Dale saw the wheels working in the guy's head. He was trying to decide what to correct from Dale's question. The guy settled for least resistance. These humans, the clowns, were alive in the time at the time of our early ancestors, and now we have Uncanny Valley. Uncanny Valley, Dale asked. Explain. One of the soldiers dared to speak. It's when something looks almost human but not quite right, like robots or mannequins or clowns. Then that scares us. All right. Dale was about to shout, but the scientist pointed over his shoulder and said, "That's right." 3 men in the room gasped. Dale turned first to the door, looking for a killer clown with teeth. Seeing none, he turned to the monitors. The trio that surprised the group waddled from one camera view to the next. In the second monitor, he saw their backs, naked in normal proportions for plump humans. Their skin was so white as to be nearly washed out blurs in the picture. They moved to the end of the hall and turned left into some shadows. Dale stepped back and scanned from left to right and up to down. Where the hell are they now? The scientist stepped forward. That's level 7, so definitely 4 levels compromised now. That hall, I'm sorry, that's not my level, but I think it's dorms and cafeteria. We don't have cameras there. All right. Dale sighed and folded his arms over his chest. Are there any people there still? Not prehistoric clowns, but people, I mean. We evacuated days ago. Anyone who didn't make it out is probably dead now. Were they always violent? They developed so quickly we hardly had time to see. How did they get out? What was the failure? The doors didn't seal tight enough. Dale took that in as he watched the monitors. He saw another shape move 3 or 4 monitors higher in the bank. It looked like blurs, but it also looked like a 10-foot tall wobbling person. Where is that? The scientist sucked in air and said, labs on 6, sir. Dale watched closely as he asked, what do you mean about the doors? The seals were faulty? No, not as they were designed, sir, just insufficient. He saw another short, fat figure crawl under tables and then hop out a door. He kept watching without asking the scientist to identify anymore. What do you mean? Did they rip the doors off? Are they that strong? They are strong, sir, but no, they squeezed through. Squeezed through sealed containment doors that weren't faulty. Yes, sir. Explain more now. He could see movement on at least 7 monitors. One of the figures appeared to be on all fours, lapping up a pool of thick liquid that looked dark gray in the picture. This one had horns that twisted in two different nightmare directions. They flattened themselves enough to squeeze through. Dale turned to the scientist. How is that possible? It's not unprecedented in nature. Rats can squeeze through small openings too. All right. Not a sealed containment door. No, sir. This is far more extreme. Dale turned to the monitors. He lifted his finger and it sort of floated as he looked for a target. What's the highest level they've reached? Closest to the surface, I mean. The last we saw before we evacuated. No, not before, now. Look at the fucking monitors. Tell me the highest level you see movement on. The scientist stepped forward and looked back and forth. Faster, Dale ordered. 4 now. No, there's one on by the elevators on 3. 3 levels below us. Dale stepped forward and squinted where the scientist pointed. No, sir, 2 below us. We're on level 1, ground level. Dale watched as the creature turned its eyes on the camera as if looking back at them. It tilted its ghoulish head that looked more like some kind of goblin as opposed to any clown he had ever seen in a circus or horror film. This one did not have horns. That meant if Dale followed this insanity, that meant female or a male without horns. The stark white of the body shined into the camera and hid many of the details of the naked creature. All right. Rolling on here. The figure walked backward and folded itself through the invisible gap in the door. As its hands came together and its flat face vanished, it almost looked like it waved with long, white fingers that had to be more than a foot in length each. Does that shaft lead to the surface? Yes, sir. And they can climb walls, you said? Yes, sir. The young kid soldier said, Sir, the elevators are between us and the exterior doors. Maybe we should take this outside. Everyone move, hustle. Dale sounded almost calm, but he was just used to the idea that one day one of these fucking scientists was going to kill him. They ran from the room, and the scientist kept pace with them. His motivation to move added to Dale's fear. As they turned the corner, Dale watched the elevator doors. It took them forever to reach them and to pass them. As they did, Dale saw puckers of white flesh slipping through. The squeaking, rubbery sound was maddening. Dale found it in himself to run harder, and the others kept pace. The scientist flubbed the access code twice, causing the pad to buzz red instead of opening the first set of doors leading out. Dale wasn't sure how many failed attempts led to a lockdown, but he spoke in his calmest voice. You can do it, buddy. Just breathe and put the code in like muscle memory. Don't think about it so much. The pad turned green and the door opened. As Dale was still talking, and they hustled through. Okay, I've messed something up here. Hold on. The pad turned green and the door opened. All right, we're going to make that a separate sentence. As Dale was still talking, and they hustled through. We'll stop it there. I don't think that's what I meant to do, but it'll make sense. As Dale was still talking and they hustled through, 3 of them slapped the button to close the doors behind them for what it was worth. As the doors slid together, Dale heard a hyena-like titter that was too much like laughter. All right, let me fix a typo here. All right. Slapping flesh against hard floor was the thing must have been the thing running toward them. He swore he heard something jingling before the containment doors sealed for whatever that was worth. Sealed for what protection that could provide against a thing like this. All right. The scientists got the other doors opened and closed in short order as they approached daylight. Would an airstrike get through this structure? Dale asked. Maybe a few bunker busters, the scientist said, a few mother of all bombs, but you have to follow it up with fire. Whatever hellish chemical you have that burns brightest has to be that. They can't get out. Whatever you can burn them with, you need to dump all of it. The last doors opened and everyone piled out into the sun. As the doors slid closed slower than Dale liked, he said, "Believe it or not, buddy, I have that on standby." "Why did you bother coming here first?" "Procedure," Dale shrugged. The rubber stretching noise echoed out again the moment before the last doors closed. "Everyone to the vehicle," Dale said as the soldiers were already running. "I'm calling in the strike now." All he did was hit a button on his phone. They were halfway to the vehicle when the confirmation came back and he hit the button again. They were rolling away as the doors closed with everyone inside, including their scientist buddy, when the final screen popped up and Dale put in his code and confirmed a third time. As they turned toward the fences, a white bubble of flesh popped through the seam of the outermost doors and formed into a face that Dale was never going to forget, shining in the sun. "Why did you take us in there if you knew they could do that?" Dale asked. The scientist said, "Anything this dangerous the military always wants to keep unless they get a taste. Let's say up close. Unless they get an up close taste of how... I think it may need to be a dash. Unless they get an up close taste of how horrific it can be firsthand. And sometimes not even then." As the sound of jets roared overhead... We are almost there. As the sound of jets roared overhead, Dale spoke to the driver first. "You're going to want to speed up just a touch there, son." The soldier complied. Dale eyed the scientist and asked, "You were willing to put yourself in danger just so you could convince the military it was too dangerous to keep?" The scientist took a deep breath. "I'm afraid so, sir. You have my apologies." Dale shook his head, but then held out his hand. "Tell me your name there, buddy."